completely not understandable. I got to. That's a long story. Is this even correct? I mean, is this still decimal and you have a 0 in front of it? That would be ridiculous. You can only print base 10. Ridiculous. So the well, so much for trying to use standard format. Or is this not? Yeah, this is the width, but if the width is dynamic. Okay, I'll just don't use standard format, I think. Do we have a manipulator these days that prints a binary? Standard bin. No. because it does not exist. What was it called? You belong to biz. Okay, we have two new classes. Let's test them. For which I need a new test program, which I'm gonna call. I can do it in hypercube, probably. Well, actually, this still. Yeah, we don't need this, I think. Don't need it anymore. Just a quick test. So I want to construct a corner. I want to construct a printer, actually. Okay, let's add that. Yeah, I don't know. It must be, in the end, it must be variables. So let's just make even a non-const variable. Let's do 7 dimensions. And then we construct a printer from n, right? Then we construct a corner, which is origin. And then I want to be able to print it. And I think I have to use utils print using. Corner, comma, printer. Oh, but I don't know how that works, but hey, that would be nice. Let's try to make it work. Which means I need print using utils print using .h. Undefined OS. Oops. Let's also add the IO manip here. Not be part of that? No, it's not. IO manip. Printer. Did you mean insertions printer? Yeah, I kind of did. No. No matching function for call to print using. Candidates. I'm looking for candidates. Or highlight candidates. Loads of candidates. T intersections corner. Not viable. No known conversion from printer to standard function. Void standard O string. Const type name. Print using identity corner type, which is probably this corner. So this is the corner const reference. Well, that's what I want. How about printer just automatically converts to that type? Then it should work. Could not match. Yeah, okay. So this is a function pointer, another function pointer. I definitely want a member. Actually, I don't want a member. I just want a class that will use. Yeah, you have to pass a function, sort of. The function must also contain the corner type. Well, and they are all candidates. Let's just highlight corner. It's pointer like. So the only candidate that holds is this. So printer must be convertible to a standard function, blah 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 blah, aka standard function void that type. need to capture the distance. I'm shocked myself, really. Okay, but it works. Hypercube. That it prints our origin in 7 dimensions. Yes. Anyone is interested, I'll explain what I just did. So the utils print using allows me to pass, among other things, I've got the first argument is something, and I already had that. Probably, yeah, some type. Okay, so I'm trying to write to an O stream the return value of utils print using, where the first argument is just some arbitrary type. This is a template, or there is a template for it. And then this must be the only options for that exist for arbitrary type would be a standard function returning a void, taking an O stream and the same type as a const reference. But we are passing printer. However, if you do this, then if it needs that type, it will just convert the object that you pass to this type. So I defined a corner printer, which is exactly what the print using needs. And then we construct that standard function by passing a lambda, when the lambda is converted to a standard function, which, well, takes those arguments, obviously. And then does what you want, namely call this function. So we capture this in the lambda, and then we can call this function. So these three things together then allow me to use utils print using corner comma printer. Now yeah, you could say maybe I should just put this inside the lambda instead of you having a print on it all. Wondering if I can't make this a template. I want to print multiple things. There's not really a need to define this, I suppose. Maybe, but you cannot overload on the return type. So that won't work. I'm afraid, no. Can't make it a template, really. to add a specialization for the print using itself. Instead, I'm gonna try something. So I want to try to change the corner thing into a template, so I don't have to repeat this. So I can just add print-ons for every object, and then it will work. So that could be a specialization for the print using template. That is a template, right? Yeah, of course, it's a template. So something print using, but it must be this is a function pointer. It had to be a standard function. I think it's this one, right? Yeah, I need a specialization for print using 2. Is that even going to work then? No, it's not going to work. Well, wait a minute. I can add a print using explicitly for my printer class, of course. And that's maybe even better. Probably a bit dirty though, because then you have to define something inside namespace utils. But yep. So right now we can't use print using because well, it just doesn't work. And I could also add that, what I now almost was going to add, to this header, to the header itself. So allow that to we have print using, and then the object that you want to print, and then something that doesn't match my printer. But why doesn't it match it? It's simply it must be an object then that has a print on, that takes an O stream and the t-const reference. Which is very, very, very close to this, except that it must be a member function. And here it is a member function, but then now it's a member of that object. I want to have another object. There would be a template with 2 template parameters, which I don't have here. But I'll add that. And all this stuff. In the end, everything is converted to a print using 2. That one does have two templates. Yep. I have no idea what it is calling. So let's add some debug output here. That prints what is being called. It is a friend actually, so it's a free function. Well, okay. So I want to print type print using 2 here. How did that work again? It's a libcwd thing, I think. Type info off. Using 2. Demangled name or something like that. No, you suddenly can't print it anymore. How commented is er? Huh? Oh, huh? No. Oh, this, I added it inside the if. We already have it here. Then that works. Should work. It's there, commented out. Completely overlooked that. Okay, so yeah, we have to construct a standard function. Probably is that the only way? m object. Awesome. It's always using this one then. This is where it is being invoked. Now you can ask yourself, what about all the others? Like either that one or that one. Is that going to work as well then? That is exactly the same way. No, it's not. There's a star in front of it. I can at least test that one. So, for example, if we pass a pointer to a corner here, then it will also work. It should also work. So, it prints a star in front of it, meaning that this was a point, is actually a pointer to that object. So now it is sufficient to just define this. Don't need this anymore then. Okay, now having some corner, we want to be able to go to a next corner, but that doesn't really make much sense, I think, unless it is an adjacent corner. So I think we should do the gray code iteration, which works like, I think I had that here, gray code. So this is basically our corner now, which means that G is the C value that is wrapped in the corner. I want to get that from a parameter. That could be a first parameter of lambda, I suppose. Yeah, but this is a thing that loops over all values. So what about we're just halfway and we just want to go to the next one? I think that this is the current value, and then we call just visit. So the next call to visit is this, which is all nice and dandy, but that means that is the big trick, you know? That would switch our corner to the next one. However, apparently that is only possible if you know what bit is. Bit is standard count R0. Suppose that is the number of zeros on the right of K. And K is a loop value. Well, we don't know that, although we could know it. Because if you know G, then you should know what the number of times that you did loop. Yeah, sorry for all the yawning. So I just Google this for in the meantime. Find the next gray code. Having only the gray code. This is again the internal state. Okay, I'm gonna look at the ChatGPT. It's quite expensive to do the inverse. Oh, I can't read this. It's not C++. Otherwise, how is this faster than this? This doesn't even have a loop. Oh, what is you need to call is gray old, which has the loop. Really? And then in the end, you only need to know if it is odd or not. So that sucks. Isn't it? Hi, Vivek. Is it? Doesn't odd here just not just mean that the gray code has an odd number of bits set? I mean, there's like an assembly instruction to count that. Yeah, built-in parity. We only need two neighbors and don't care about which is the previous one and which is the next one. Then you don't even care about, they don't even care about the parity. You can get both of them like this. Wow, okay. But then you don't know which way you're going. I see. But. That is hard to believe because this seems to indicate that there's always a neighbor where the least significant bit is flipped. Let me print some gray codes again. Yeah, indeed. But they do it alternating, so you have 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. Pretty sure that's going to repeat. Let me put n equal to 7. Yeah. So this thing alternates 2 ones, 2 zeros, 2 ones, 2 zeros, and so on. And the second bit, 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and so on. And the next one does 8 zeros. Or does it? Well, let's begin with the ones. Oh yeah, half of that. So this is 0, 1, and then you get 2 zeros and 4 ones, and then you get 4 zeros and 8 ones, and then you get 8 zeros and 16 ones. Yep, and so on. Easy peasy. So you see, this has 2 ones, therefore we flip the least significant one. This one has 2 ones, so we flip the least significant one. This is 4, 2, 4, 4, 4, 2, 4, and so on. And the one in front of that obviously has an odd number. So the only thing you need to know is the parity. The parity. It's like super easy to get the next one. So we're going to write an on the corner. a function called next, which treats C as gray code. Okay, so built-in parity. See if I have anything with parity in my utils. Built-in parity. Oh, I have utils parity. So utils parity returns the parity of set bits in n. If the number of set bits in n is even, returns 0, and odd returns 1. So if odd can be replaced by utils parity. Oops. And we explicitly don't use a limit. It just goes on and on, which is what I want. That is, I can use an external function to check. I think that strange math exercise. I'm just having fun. I don't know. What is strange about it? You mean this gray code thing, or? Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. But I can't help myself. I don't know what it is. And I like it. Corner. No, that worked, didn't it? So we can advance a corner to the next gray code. Probably also to the previous one, but I won't waste time with that. Oh no, I have to add previous. No. I think it's not going to be useful actually. And then the next thing was, I should not do these things all at once, damn it. Yeah, I think I want to have an ordering for everything, including my corners. The next class is side. As I did describe in the description of the video. I think I mentioned side, right? So a side can be constructed from a hyperblock and a hyperplane. So you just have to calculate for each corner. Each corner of the hyperblock. Can also use a facet I can call it a facet. It would also be slightly more general. I mean, what is so special about a hyperblock? Absolutely nothing, I think. It's just a wrapper around a number of dimensions. Oh, no, yeah, no, of course. The hyperblock is, has different sides. Yeah, and I still need that. I still need that. Hello. Okay, how do we calculate which side it is on? I'm going to put this in a .cxx file, why not? Which doesn't exist. Oh, maybe I won't then. Let's do everything in line. So we want to run over all corners, and we start with the origin. So you'll feel it coming. Corner current. Then we have to calculate the distance to the plane. Oh, wait a minute, this is a template, because hyperblock takes loads of template stuff. Even that. No, my site is not a template. I want to treat it the same as this thing, as in it's up to 64 dimensions. I don't write it in the description. A side. Yeah, I think. I have to admit, this is kind of dubious. It does heavily depend on the actual number of dimensions. With well, I mean, the side the side that a corner is on very much depends on the hyperplane, of course, the definition of the hyperplane, which has definitely has a dimension. I have to pick a side, right? So if all the unused corners, if I put all unused corners on the origin side, does that make any sense? Maybe it does. Like at some point, with 3 dimensions, there's so little because you can hardly play with that. But okay, let's say we have a square. And we cut the square with a line, and then we determine which of the 4 corners lay on one side and which lay on the other side, where the origin lays on the origin side, and other points lay on the origin side or on the opposite side. And there is no 3rd dimension, but my side class, which says where each corner is, how can I even do that? I have only a maximum of 64 corners then. Yeah, it's not a value type at all. No, it cannot be a value type. I mean, they can 64 corners. How many dimensions is that? It is at least more limiting than it was, because my hyperblock can go up till a high number of dimensions, which I will never use. But CꂖCₗ is right, of course. CꂖCₗ. So 2 bits, which is enough of 4. No, 2 to the power 2 is the number of corners of a 2D thing. So 2 to the power and the number of dimensions. Yeah. So 64 is 6. It would give me a maximum of 6 dimensions. I don't know if I will get stuck, but let's make side a template then. Might as well use a standard vector of bool, I think, because that is implemented in the same way. And this doesn't really make much sense anymore too. Oh yeah, vector is way better actually. Make it a vector of bools. I would say that we enumerate all corners with this value here, and they said that that can be used as the index into hyperblock C. So that has the same size, they should have the same size, namely equal to the number of corners. No, it's like literally the number of corners. Which is defined, I might as well get it from here maybe. Hyperblock number of corners. Although it's kind of trivial to repeat it. Hello, Kaushik. I'll repeat it anyway, but not like that, more like a hyperblock. So to be used as the index into that and side S. The origin corner is always on false. You would say the origin side. Is it on the origin side? That would be true, but yeah, I mean 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I think the origin at coordinate 0, 0, 0, 0 should be side 0. It just feels better. Seems to be more logical. So you can say that the Boolean here is means the opposite side of the origin. So we start with the origin, and then I have to determine what the distance is to the hyperplane place. Who typed that? The distance. Well, there is something called distance, I bet already. Plane distance here. I can get plane is a hyperplane. Yep. And then we call distance on that passing simply a corner from the hyperblock. I probably shouldn't make C public for that reason. So I think we need a distance on, well, that either takes a hyperblock or the other way around. I can add a distance to, I think. I think I'll add a distance or a distance to the hyperblock itself. I already have a distance here. Maybe it should change this distance then to take a hyperblock. think the hyperblock is already defined before the hyperplane. Oh, it's not. Well, that would explain. Yeah, does it have to be in line or? I guess the hyperblock doesn't need to know anything about the hyperplane, or does it? Well, it has an intersection points thing. Can forward declare there. I'll just have two distances then. So this is now the member function of the hyperblock, and I just pass a hyperplane to it. No, I have to also pass which corner, and then it will return the distance of, and then add a corner here. I should add corner, I think. Which means that corner must be defined before this thing. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's just move this thing up. Because the hyperplane has a distance defined, and you have to pass a vector type, which is a point which is on the corner, and then it does a dot product and stuff to get the distance. And the c__ thing, which is non-jumpable, oh it is, that stores a vector type. So we pass a vector type here, yay. And as index we have to use which corner it is. While the value thingy, or the corner, was it value? Yep. Is an accessor for C. Where the C is that the stuff that we can use as an index for that. Now normally, normally I use a separate type for every index. So let's say an index that enumerates the corners should have its own type. So you don't confuse that, so you don't accidentally use, I don't know, something else. Plus it reads much better. Here I'm just using standard vector, I think. standard array. So we could introduce an index that literally says index of the corner. And maybe I should. Yeah, so we just have, I mean, why not? I know maybe anyone is interested even how to do that. So I'm going to define an corner index, choosing corner index is I think it's, now I'm a bit confused though, because whether or not it is an array index or a vector index should be interchangeable, shouldn't it? So I have a utils, the first things first, we need an array. So I have an array index type, and the array index is taking anything, a category, whatever that is. Can it be any type? Well, corner will do. Then we have to change this, of course, into a utils array, which takes an array index as extra parameter. So we had a standard array, tn, and now we add the array index as the next parameter. Now it stops compiling because we are probably trying to use ints into the index here, which is now no longer allowed. For example, here I see, well, I can just search for capital C underscore, and now I see where that is being done. So this is the definition, actually just a comment. Oh yeah, to be used as index. Oh no. So I'd have to change my value type here to yeah, well, okay. I mean, it's a corner index. It's like literally the index for a corner. Even though I'm also going to use it as a mask, I think. So that does mean that I want my my index to be a wrapper around an unsigned int 64 type. Is that the case? Let me first check that. I think it's a size type, which is an unsigned int 64, but not really. Can we choose what the underlying type is? Oh my god, it's an int. Yeah, but this is logical. There's like no, it's never mind. It's not the unsigned int. See, that's I already get confused. The number of corners are of course small-ish. It will fit in an int. Has nothing to do with the unsigned int, which is a mask where the bit indexes are the array index. So it's not an array index. I can just keep using the value type. Yeah, I was looking for C. on this one. So this can be a value type because, but it says to be used as an index. So those indexes are just really small. I mean, you just don't want arrays or vectors that are a gigabyte. So this pretty limits the number of dimensions you can work with then, doesn't it? I don't feel like needing 32 bits just for the index of my array to enumerate all the corners, and actually only have 31 bits even, because now I'm using array index, which reserves that 32 bit for indicating that it is uninitialized or invalid. See, I'm talking nonsense. So that, well, that would be 2 to the power of 31. I just like 2 billion. You could have up till 2 billion corners. But that's 31 dimensions, yes? Which means that this is kind of nonsense to do. We are never going to have 64 dimensions. Then you cannot enumerate over all the corners anymore. It just becomes too big. So I think I'm gonna change the value type to something smaller, because this is just ridiculous. I also am not. It's a 31 cube at most. Because that gives you the 2 billion corners, which you then can enumerate with an array index. So that is kind of annoying though. Now I need to use, this is a value type, but I don't want to change the value type to I think I'm gonna leave it at value type. Yeah, but then we will have a problem if we use okay, see, we can do it. I can do it as follows. Like we can return it as a value and then use it as a value, or we can return it as an index. So this is then the index of this corner. I think that that's much better. Yeah. But this will not compile because to protect the programmer, of course, you cannot accidentally convert an integral type, aka the value type, aka the unsigned int32, to the wrapped int here. You have to be very explicit about it. And explicit means like that. Just costs, basically. Okay, which means that this must already have been defined. Before we do that, which in turn means that class corner must be for declared before we do that. Well, I could use anything else. I mean, I could just make a random class here and use that, but okay, why not? Why not corner? CI now, however, really must run over indexes because that is now an utils array. And that is kind of annoying in the sense that, oh, here we use it as a bit mask. The thing really does double duty. This whole function has to be rewritten anyway. I think I want to use the gray codes here. It should run over all corners. I mean, like the class corner, and not by index or whatever. Okay, this one is easy, so just change value into index. This prints an utils array. I think that we should be able to print it. Yeah, this is again old code, which is now calculating the distance. So I have to rewrite this anyway, because we're going to use the site for that. Let me just comment this out for now. I think I'm going to run over all the elements of the array here, as in that one. So that means that this is an corner index. Also reflected in the name, I guess, CI. And then we can use it as an index here. But I also want to use it as a value. But we can get the value of the index by calling value. Which returns what type? So I want to run over, so we'll look at array index. That returns an int, see? Oh, it's get value. So I do it bitwise and with bit, which is also an int. No problem. Yeah, I think we are back on track-ish, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to compile this and see what all has to be changed. Array index is not included apparently. Utils array. Non-construct cannot be narrowed from type unsigned into int. Yeah, C is an unsigned int, but we know that we only use 31 bits. Maybe we should just make it a signed type. Yeah. It's a bit too much, I guess, to test that here, but for demonstration purposes. This was not a function, was it? No, this was the function. Okay, back to constructing the side object from a hyperblock and a hyperplane. Back to calculating the distance, which is now going to be float type distance. So I added, I think, a distance to block. The distance of current index, comma, plane. Suddenly you only have one. I just added the distance to a hyperblock. Sure. Oh, distance off. Never mind. Okay. You could say off 2, but well. So the distance of the current corner, maybe, because it doesn't read very well like this. And why do I have to type index here? Like, seriously. It just takes a corner, so never mind the index. No, that's done inside this function. Don't have to type it. So the distance of the current corner to the hyperplane. And that is for the origin to the origin distance. However, I'm only really interested in the sign of the distance, so I might as well convert that immediately to a Boolean. Origin, I'm gonna call it the sign, well, distance sign then, distance sign. And I want to get the sign of this thing, so less than 0. And then equal to 0 is kind of annoying, I have to admit, because that means we have a corner that lays inside the plane. And I'm not sure if my algorithm ever needs to take that into account, or that they just can say, count it as being on one side or the other, and that it will automatically work then. I think it will probably just automatically work. So we can use less than or equal, and that is then the fuzziness of it, but it shouldn't make a difference really. Let's do the same thing as I did in the other distance. Actually, in the other algorithm thing that called distance, which is less than or equal. Maybe at a grand plan with the less than or equal here. Okay, now we want to run over all corners, so loop until, yeah, maybe just loop over the number of corners, and then I'm thinking if it makes any sense to use the gray code here, or I could also just increment the index, of course. Either way, I need an end. I do have an index, right? I mean, let's add a next index to the corner. And then we're just going to run over the index. So we have a next, I think here, next, which is the next gray code. And I can also add an operator. No, there's not. Yeah, let's do what you normally do. Return the same object. So an operator plus pre-increment, return this, and we let that increment our index, and the index is actually that. But yeah, either way, it's just going to be incrementing it. I think that, I mean, I don't know what the last value is. I could calculate it, but why not just use the index? Well, I could, whatever is returned, we can call index on that, which is then casting the C again to a corner index. Or we could cheat and have this thing return corner index directly. Nah, let's not do that. I'm gonna call index on it. So this increments, I'm gonna add an assert though. Like, you don't want to increment it when you're already at the end, right? So when are we at the end? So C must be less than 1 shifted left in the number of corners, which we don't know. Oops. No, can't do that. Let the caller worry about it, I would say. So here we're going to do a loop. And as part of the loop, we want to increment the current corner. And if after the increment the index that the current corner represents equals the I-end, I stands for index here, of the array that we have. I have only one array that's part of the block at the moment, or not. No, S as well, so I might as well use S. So S dot I-end, because our corner is also an index into S underscore, meaning that this must be a utils vector or booleans using the corner index. And that's why I was confused a little bit, because you cannot imagine that wouldn't work. Of course you can use the same index for a vector as well as an array, but the thing was called array index, so help. Vector, oh, loads of vectors. loads and loads of vectors. If it is a vector, I call it vector. There's my vector. Yeah, vector index. Yeah. Well, this is just, yeah, no, that's indeed, there isn't vector index. Is that me trying to tell myself that I should use an array here? An array with a known size, with the number of corners as a size. Yeah, obviously I should do that. Yeah, and done. Oh, wait a minute. Now the size must now be given as well. Like that. It's now hard-coded in the type. Yeah, okay, so you see that already helps. The fact that we use an index type forces me to use an array. Now, I still stand with the idea that, well, on the other hand, maybe I'm right that me in the past that wrote this index stuff was right, that it doesn't make much sense. If you have an array with a certain index type, yeah, I mean, that just runs from 0 till the size of the array. So if I then have a vector, how would that work? I think that should be an array as well. You just know what the size is then. Yeah, I don't know. Probably. Okay, I'm going to try to compile this again quickly. Did that work? Well, it's the last file I was in, not really interesting. Or is it interesting? I do want to be in this file. Okay, so I calculate the distance and then we take the sine of that. And then the origin has a certain sign. And then if the next I probably should initialize this. I don't think this thing is initialized with all zeros. Okay, all false. So the current corner as index is the origin, must be false, as it says here. Let's move that even. Now, theoretically, there could be only one corner. I mean, not likely, but yeah. Theoretically, I would say it's a bit scary to increment it. So I'm gonna do it like that, I think. Or is this nonsense? No, the first one always exists. Come on, there is not 0 corners. So we can do something and then increment it. And that might be end then, in which case there was only one corner. However, what I want to do here is increment it and then do some calculations, which is here. So then I have to escape here after incrementing it, if it is end. So you might as well put it at the top, I think. I mean, then the first time this will always be true, but nah, who cares? So if this, if we are not already at the end, and the first time it definitely is not, because otherwise we would crash here, or trying to use end here as index. Then we increment the corner, and then we have two corners, namely the origin and this corner. So now I want to calculate the side. I'm just going to assign the side. The side of the current corner index, current corner as index. It becomes, and then it becomes false if it is on the same side as the origin. So we calculate the sign of the current corner, and I have to compare that with I don't know if it is equal or unequal. I have to compare that with that. Let's assume there is a problem with the precedence there. So if this is equal to that, then we want, then it is on the same side as the origin. In which case this must be assigned false. So yeah, the unequal was correct, is correct. Great. Now I want to be able to print the side, obviously. So my printer needs to be needs to get a member function. Side. Which then, lo and behold, will do exactly the same as this. Ha 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 ha. It has to use an accessor. Can make printer a friend of the class. I've never had much problems with accessors. Yeah, it doesn't hurt that much usually. So let's add an accessor here. Oh, wait a minute. This thing is an array of booleans. Why? I think I was just confused. It should be a value type. It should totally be. It should have been a value type. Yeah. So we're going to return a value type for value. And it's really just an accessor. I'm just going to return s underscore. This should have been a value type. We do the same thing as with the corner, right? Hyperblock. Yeah, see, I just use a private value type, and then we have an accessor and a corner index. the same way. Can't even copy all of it. How to make it a base class. You can put this in a base class now, a value. Good idea, right? Bing. Class value. Now we lost S, and here it is. It is either a corner or it is this side. Wait a minute. The index is the corner, and yeah, I'm so doing this wrong. Oh, fuck me. No, this is not definitely not correct. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. Number of corners is can be up till 2 billion. So we want this to be a vector, and it's not corner index. Or is it? It is corner index, but I still want to have it a vector. Nah, probably we won't get to 2 billion. 2 billion won't fit on the stack though, so maybe it should be a vector. And then we can make the other one as vector as well, in case someone ever wants to go to insanely big. I'm gonna use a vector anyway, because even if it isn't insanely big, you still don't want to have it on the stack. And I want to have side on the stack. So we turn this into a vector. Then the other array must also be a vector. And then the corner index must be a vector index. Yep. So this thing is different from what we stored in the corner. Like the decimal value of this whole thing is it runs over the corner. This is the label of the corner. So it's just the value of C underscore is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which enumerates the corners. While this thing uses that as an index and stores a boolean. Totally different beasts. So why did I want to add a value and an index then? This is nonsensical. Somewhere I wanted to use, I wanted to do that. Yeah, side value. This is where I wanted to do that. That's not how it works. I really have to run over the size of the whole array. Why would I even do that here, actually? I'm a bit confused now why I would want to do that like this. I'm really inclined to do print on. Call a print on the side itself. I don't know why oh yeah, I remember. Because the object needs to know the dimension. So the printer object needs how many dimensions we have. And then the thing that it prints doesn't need to know that. But in the case of a site, that does know the number of dimensions. Hello, knowledge. What is your best way to actually learn any programming language? Kind of, I know by doing practice questions, but is there any other thing than that what you think? Well, what I do on stream, even. Like a few days ago, I didn't know what a polyhedron was. A polygon, I had an idea, but in n-facet, no idea. So yeah, I just learned it. I just took the time to look it up and learn those things, which I do as a result of working on a little project, aka what I normally say, just code. Write your own code. That's the best thing, and then put don't set deadline, so you don't have the feeling that you have to skip all kinds of important things like looking up information and learning how testing it out. If you do quick, then yeah, then you probably don't really learn something. You don't go in depth. I like to continue on a certain topic until I feel I'm the top expert in the world, and then I go to the next topic. It takes a lot of time, but then eventually, if you look back, you are an expert in a lot of topics. Otherwise, you're not. I am using GNU Linux. This is Arch. Not that it matters. But I guess it matters that is Linux. Windows or Mac would look differently, suppose. Yeah, so the reason that this is part of printer is that because the N is used here. But I don't need that here. And now it's suddenly extremely lame that I can print a site using the printer. Might as well print the site directly. Why would I use print using for a site? I can just print it. So I'm not going to do this at all. I'll just add a print onto site. Is that my first print on? Nope, you have other ones. Only debug output? Well, maybe, yeah. Well, the others are. It's a bit dubious because this whole thing is debug-ish, so I don't see a reason to compile this without debug code. So this is CI as in a corner index. Yep. I'm constantly getting buffering on even here. And it is at 240p instead of high D HD. Yep. Yet I have excellent connection, it says. .6 megabits per second. Anyone should be able to download that. Yeah, no, we want to run over the index. So this is a corner index. Run over the index of S. I begin. CI is unequal S underscore I end plus plus CI. If S underscore CI UI, that's more like it. I need to define another hypercube, I think, and a hyperplane. Can use what I had. Perhaps. What? I never added it. Oh, that's great. I'm doing using namespace already. I used -1s before, but this case we really want to use 0 and 1s. I could use any number I want actually. Now I think about it. Now I'm defining a hypercube with a side of 1. So one corner is all zeros and the other corner, the opposite corner, is all 1s. Yeah, but it's a cube word. It's a hypercube. Cube plane. It's really. It's that other part of my brain. The other half, probably. Hyperplane. Yeah. Hyperplane takes, I think, a point that it goes through, and I have no objections against the center of the cube. And the distance, yeah, well, if you use 0 as a distance, the distance to that point. Okay, this is, no, it's not good, damn it. This is the distance to the origin. And this is the normal. I'm doing it totally wrong. So let's use as the normal vector the vector that points to that corner, and then the distance we use let's say half the length of the long diagonal of the hypercube, which is the square root of 7, right? Do I see that wrong? Nah, probably not. Standard square root of 7. Actually, square root of n even. Haha. Because the line from here to there is, well, the square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared plus 1 squared, you know, Pythagoras in 7 dimensions. Which is square root of 7. Hey. And then we take half of that, so now we are at the center. Because that's the distance from the origin. So we go from the origin to there in square root of 7. I mean, but we go only halfway. Totally has to work. I guess I can calculate intersections. Again, like intersections with the plane. inter something. Intersection. It's a single intersection. Intersection points. Yep. They just pass the plane, and we get back a vector of vector types. Eun says, if I just give you two options, kind of, first skip the college and actually prepare yourself by AI augmented research or other resources, or you will go to college. Which one you prefer? I picked the first one, but yeah, it's not my advice. And the main, if you really want to become knowledgeable, I think, in a certain topic, and you are good at self-study, which is of course is important, then you learn most if you learn only those things that you are interested in. But if you want to get a job, then you need papers, I think. Nobody's gonna say, oh, you did a lot of self-study, you must be good. Unfortunately. So you must be tested, and testing that is only be done on the university. And then if you get it used to mean something. I think these days anyone can get to university. They make it simpler and simpler in the embracing inclusion and stuff. Inclusion means that absolutely everyone must be able to get a university degree these days. Or maybe I'm mistaken, but that's what I heard. Hypercube. I don't know if you learn a lot if you use AI. I mean, I'm using AI, but man, the number of times AI is saying something that is wrong. It never says, no, I think it's this or that, right? I mean, no matter how wrong it is, it says, this is the answer, like it's a fact. I know this, I'm the expert, here's the answer. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. That's how it says it. So it's very hard to... the only way to figure out if it is not total nonsense is by checking minutely everything. Which then in turn means that you actually learn something. Just stupidly, blindly, I should say, copying whatever the AI is spewing out. Spewing. That won't get you anywhere, because one, you don't learn anything, period, by just copying it, and two, half of the answers are wrong. So you would even learn the wrong thing. Then you get a job interview and they ask you a question and you say very confidently, that's 42. And then they say, you'll hail back from us, there's the door. And then you say, but the AI said so. And then you'll never get a job anymore. It's the image that I have of this. Let's print all. No, I just want to know the size. Come on. $140, I think. Why is this not compiling? Non-constant expression cannot. Oh, that again. Even the static cast is not allowed. Oh, we're losing the sign. Oops. Can just pause it as is then. That's strange. There's a corner in. Oh, what? Oh. Yeah, I changed from array index to vector index. Apparently, array index uses an int and vector index uses a size type. Holy difference. Template arguments for template type parameter must be a type. Yeah, this is also nonsensical now. It's not an array anymore. Plus, I have to construct a thing with the correct size. What about the other vector? Probably also sizeless. The same thing. Number of kernels. New verb constructor, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. That's what true. Double comma n, right? And but my n here was not a const expression. No, it is. I can't help it. Double n. Expected parameter declarator. Vector type. Why would I not be able to pass on what? Initialization list to an vector type. Pretty sure I could do that last time. Hyperblock. Like literally accepts initializer lists. Oh, I see it. That's why my viewers dropped from 100 to 2. And it isn't late enough to say I need to go to bed. Dang. No, I'm gonna blame knowledge for distracting me. Yes, that must be it. Hypercube. Run. I said 140, if my memory is correct. Yeah, the answer is 0. That can't be right. Did I comment that one out? I did comment that one out. That's not going to work anymore. Okay, well, good enough. It compiled. Can I quickly make this compile again? Let's just fix it for momentarily to see if it works at all. Cannot use CI here, so let's use the CI here. Intersection. Is that the only one? Yeah, my syntax highlighting doesn't like it. And the narrowing stuff again. And again. Okay, I'll do it differently. I'll just run over corner indexes the way we are supposed to. Number of corners. Yeah. Could make this an array. No, number of corners is something else, man. Huh? No, it's not. Must use a vector. I don't get this, man. How is this not a function declaration? And if you use this, it's suddenly an initializer list. We are trying to initialize the vector type with number of corners, and that works. What? Arrgh. So first we had 0 because, well, this whole code block was commented out. So yes, then it returns a vector with size 0. And then you implement it, it compiles, and then you get still 0. That is so Twilight Zone-like. Doesn't look like I saw before. Try it anyway first. Yeah, it's a function. So a weird error. It must be like that. No. No oh, demangled types. It must be demangled name. Well, whatever. can't print a utils vector. We can print a booleans, I'm sure. I have this. Must have utils typical stream operators. Oh no, actually not. Well, or what? No, this was only printing AI alert, I think. So this will still not compile. Gar? Print a container. Yeah, it should be printing this. And it doesn't want to print it because it thinks it's a character thing, but it's a bool. Is a bool the same as a character? Yeah, it's not allowed to be a char. That's why it doesn't use it. But. Trying to print side. It's just bool. Tiresome. Yeah, everything is true. But the origin is false. Well, it should be false. But it should still give us 7 intersections then. No, it's not. The origin is whatever this returns. Well, at least 140 is correct. Yeah, I'm doing something wrong here apparently. I think I know what I did wrong. This must be a normal, as in it should be divided by the square root of 7. But it isn't. So this normal is the square root of 7 too long. And this distance is in terms of the normal. So it should be just a half. Nope. Was a good attempt. I'm gonna divide it by the square root of 7. Oh, so randomly trying stuff. Still not. Let's choose 0. Still nothing. Now only the first one lays on one side and the rest lays on the other side. I have no clue how this works. I think it is just a bug or something. How can a negative distance give me something? Still 7. $105. We're getting somewhere. $140. Oh, of course, it should be that. It should be -10. What else could it have been? -10, right? Probably -12, but well. It's only it was -1/12. Let's see. Why? What does this mean? How is it defined anyway? The distance d. An n-1 dimensional hyperplane orthogonal to a given normal n with offset dn from the origin. Oh, d times n from the origin. It is already in. D is in normal things. Well, then it should be a half, not -10. Okay, sorry, I need a break because I'm falling asleep. Which doesn't help while thinking about this. I'm going to go watch a movie.